all different kinds of tea, any color tea. So Camellia sinensis is the Latin name for the bush. And the common names can be tea plant, tea shrub, and tea tree, but not to be confused with tea tree oil, for those of you who are oil aficionados. That particular plant is called Melaleuca alternifolia, and that tea tree plant is from New Zealand. So that's where you get the tea tree oil from. But the tea plant is the camellia, just like the bloom, right? And the leaves and the buds are used to produce every kind of tea, which include white tea, yellow tea, green tea, oolong tea, dark tea, black tea, all harvested from one or the other variety, which is called Assamica. So Assamica or sinensis are the only two camellia varieties that tea is made from. There is another type called kukicha, and kukicha means twig, so it's made from the twigs or the branches of the same bush. So it's called twig tea. So that is what we're talking about today. Now this is not about tea ceremony. I'm not talking at all about, that's a whole other art form. We're just talking today about the beauty of a teapot and a teacup, okay, and how we make it, okay? So there are, the word teapot in Japanese is kyusu, and there are 4 types of teapots. Now I've listed a 5th one because it has a special name, but it actually has a handle like this one. So I listed it because it does have a different name, and we'll cover that. So the first one I'd like to show you is the Yokode Kyusu with a side handle, and I'm going to just slip around to the other side, and I'm going to show you. These are teapots that are made with a 90-degree angle from the spout. So this set here, I asked my husband, I said, I want a little tea set. So he bought me this, and they're 10 teacups. So in Japanese dishware, everything comes in sets of 5. We know things come in sets of 4 or 6 or 8 here in the United States, but in Japan, things come in sets of 5, okay? And so if you need more, you have to buy 2 sets of 5, okay? So these pour very nicely, and you can just, now these are right-handed teapots, because as you can see, I'm right-handed, and I can pour my tea and hold the lid at the same time in my hand. Now if you're left-handed, they do make some left-handed varieties, but they're a little bit more rare and harder to find, all right? But they are available. Then I wanted a set for just my husband and I was in the Great Hanshin earthquake in 1995, January 17th, 5:45 in the morning, and most of my, or a lot of my dishes were broken in the earthquake. But trust me, I fully recovered. And I purchased ones that I found very enjoyable. And I just love this little set with the little man crawling up the side of the cup. Isn't it adorable? Yeah. And it even has a beautiful design on the inside of the cup as well. So this also is the same type that you hold with the side handle, and you would pour it, and it has a little man on it too. You can tell that it's a set for a couple because this one is a little bigger, and this one for the wife is a little smaller. So
and
this
it's blue
and the red one would be for the woman, and the green one would be for the man. Then one of my students one time was moving away and bought me this nice individual set, a tea set with the same kind of handle, and it's one for a teapot for one and a teacup. So you'd put the teacup on the saucer and you'd simply pour it that way. Okay, and hold it that way. But isn't it nice? It's all connected, and it just packs up so very compactly and very unique. All right, so that is the handle that is to the side. All right, then there's the Yushinode, which is a back handle, and quite frankly, I didn't have any to show you. They're more westernized, and it would be a handle in the back, similar to, you know, the side of a cup like this, right? With a handle, but I didn't.
The handle and the cup and the spout on the other side.
Right, the spout goes directly across. Correct. I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here is my handle. Here is my spout.
Okay,
right.
Yeah.
So that's the one I don't have. I don't have a little teapot like that. And then the third one is the one with the top handle, and that's called an uwade. And I do have lots of uwade teapots. So I have this wonderful one here. They're usually made with a wire underneath and then wrapped with, or they could be made of bamboo that's flexible, that's been formed that way. And then they're wrapped with a rattan, or they're wrapped with a plastic. And I'm going to come around to the other side quickly and show you. And then they can slide out. You know, you can take the wire to wash the pot. You would take it out like that and clean the pot out. So that is, well, I'm just going to leave it loose here. Well, let's see. You can get it in there. There we go. All right, so that's that. So I'm going to hand this around so you can see. Pass that around. That's one of the handles. All right, so that's the top handle. Now the hoen is a type of individual cup. So this could be a hoen, except that it's a cup and a pot kind of all in one, because this one actually has the strainer down in the middle already built in to the cup. But the hoen pots are ones that have no handle at all. And the hoen would be ones that would have maybe a little spout on one end, and you would simply just pour it by holding the pot with your hand without a handle at all. So this means no handle, a no handle pot, okay? So that's what that is.
Can you use that as your cup too?
Yes, you would use that as your cup, right. I didn't have a hoen to show you.
Oh, so
And
the
then
top isn't the cup? That's not the cup?
no, it could be. It could be the cup. It's rather broad, but it could be the cup. So it could be very well, Susie, a hoen, and you would pour. It looks a little shallow to me, but it could be.
Do
Utilize it
they
that way.
drink different kinds of tea?
Yes.
I mean, some of them, they're only drinking just a little bit, and then others are drinking as much as we drink coffee. I mean,
Right.
are some teas stronger or?
Correct. Yes.
Oh.
Absolutely. There's all different kinds of teas. Chinese teas would be used in a different way that Japanese teas would be used. And English teas would be different than used in Japanese teas. So and Japanese use all different teas from different countries, right?
Oh, okay.
So, yes, and you'd use the appropriate
Yeah.
vessel to, serve it and to drink out of it. And then a tetsubin I listed as the last one on the list, and that means a cast iron pot. Now, they're heavy, and actually one of my students brought one in earlier that had its own little trivet that matched it.
Right.
And but it's a tetsubin, but it has an uwade top handle that's made out of metal that's connected to the pot. So it's this type, but it's the name for the cast iron pot is that, and not so many people use the cast iron pots like they used to. But in tea ceremony, it is used in tea ceremony to have a cast iron pot.
Do they heat the cast iron pot versus these others you put hot water in?
Correct. You would put hot water in these, where the cast iron pot you could heat over the fire. Correct. You would heat it up yourself. And today we have electric hot pots, so we would just pour it out of the hot pot at the right temperature into our pot and serve it, and then we have to strain it, so that now to move to the strainers. So there are all kinds of strainers, and in teapots you can see where sometimes there are big holes where the spout is, and it will catch the loose tea leaves up in here, and sometimes they're thinner and finer in the top. So if you need to, with this pot, because my holes are rather large in that one, I went out and bought a more practical fine mesh plastic one, and you just pop that down in there and let that steep in there that way. So that's that kind. Then of course you've seen maybe these tea balls, and you can use bigger ones like this for a bigger pot like this, or you can use a smaller one for a smaller pot. Or if you're going to just do an individual cup of tea, you put your tea leaves in here, and then you just put it in your cup like that to steep for a while, and they're easy to open and clean out. Then I have a rather unique little guy here, and I'm going to walk this down here and put it in here. It's a little squirrel. But, as you can see, you take off the strainer part, and you put your tea leaves in there, and then you put it back on, and you set him right on the side, and he steeps your tea for you. Isn't that cute? Very clever, okay?
Doesn't seem to fit with all the other ones.
I know, I understand, but it's kind of fun.
Is
It's
that
kind
Japanese?
of fun. I don't
No.
think so. But I have a feeling if you looked online, you would probably find some modern ones like that. That's a modern one. And I would say that in modern Japan now, I'm sure you can find these. Yes, actually my daughter bought that for me online, and it just actually looked kind of Japanese to me. So modern, more modern Japanese.
Well, how soon do the children start to drink tea?
I have no idea. Do you know, Lynn?
No, I mean, I started drinking tea when I was very young, so.
When you were very young,
Yeah.
yeah. Most all my Japanese students, have tea sets of some kind. Some don't, that are more younger, but yes, they enjoy seeing the beauty of the tea sets. And then there are glasses, of course, and teacups, and that's called a yunomi. A yunomi is a teacup, and they can be like this, made of glass, or they can be made of clay like this. And they can be tapered along the side, like this one, or they can have straight sides, like this one, or they can have a lidded top, like this one here. Now this set actually, for people for those of you online who know what these are, this is really a set for chawan mushi. And chawan mushi is an egg custard. And you would put you would heat these up and put the egg custard in there, and you would, at the very bottom of the egg custard would be a savory lily root, which has the texture of kind of like a water chestnut in the bottom. And these are sets specifically for chawan mushi, but I like to use them for tea because they're lidded and will keep your tea nice and warm, right? So these are the lidded ones. So now, Susie, I'd like you to share about your teapot that you brought today to show
Only
us.
that
Sorry.
I bought this in Okinawa, and it was our dishes, so I have some plates and some, I don't know, they're for sushi, I don't know, long plates that I use for bread plates, of course, but I'm sure this will work
Yes.
for, and I have a sake set
Yes.
that matches this with the,
Nice.
chrysanthemum.
Chrysanthemum.
Yeah, chrysanthemum.
A kiku.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I have lots of, and then I bought a set of these that I use for juice glasses.
They have little vegetables on the
yeah.
side. I don't know what it says, but I'm sure it says something very lovely on the side.
It says Yeah.
V8. I just bought them because I liked them, so I don't know that much about them.
They're cute. Well, thank you. They're very nice. So the beauty of Japan, that's what we're trying to, share. And it's good to take time out to relax and have a cup of tea. Now, if you should break, let's say a pot like this with a lid like this, well, it's impossible to replace a piece of pottery with a lid like this. So in Japanese, there's a term called wabi-sabi. And hang on, I'm going to go over here to read it. So wabi-sabi means a way of living that focuses on finding beauty within the imperfections of life and accepting peacefully the natural cycle of growth and decay. So if you had dropped this, but you love the teapot and you needed the lid or a lid, you would go and have it repaired with either some metal or some other properties that would make it look good and still work and function properly. But now it would be wabi-sabi because you could see that it had some decay and some corrosion to it, but it was still functioning and it was still part of your daily life, okay, to enjoy. So that's a good feeling to have that wabi-sabi feeling, all right?
So when your kids come back for dinner and say, "Oh, you're wabi-sabi tonight."
So-
Wabi-sabi sounds similar.
Today, because this is the month of March and we're going to celebrate St. Patrick today by kind of using the Bells of Ireland. I want to talk a little bit about the Bells of Ireland branches because each little rotating group of little round bells, that these are like little bells all the way around. There's like, I think there's usually about 6 or more all the way around each side. And inside each bell is a little white bud. And when it blooms open, it looks like a very tiny snapdragon or a tiny orchid flower. So this is kind of the collar or the bottom or the underneath side of the flower, and then the flower comes out the middle, and it just hides like is cupped there in the bell. Then underneath each of these little rotating bells are spines, and they are a little prickly. So be careful when you handle bells of Ireland, because they are a little prickly. All the spines are in there to protect the bells and the flowers inside. So we're going to use one that's going to be the strongest and tallest, and we're going to measure 2 times the width and 1 time the height of your container, and that will be the height of your heaven line, your tie. Then you're going to take the next one and you're going to cut it about 3/4 of the height of heaven, and that's going to represent the man. Now, I had a little problem with mine, and mine were not getting hydration at the end, so I just took a floral wire, made a little shepherd's hook at the top, folded it around the tip, and just very carefully wound it around the top so that I could bend and shape my bells of Ireland the way I wanted them to go. But they can be very, unwieldy, because they might go in different directions, kind of curvy or almost dancing in different forms or different directions. So just use that to your advantage in the design. So once you have the heaven and the man in, then you want to work in the roses. Now these roses have beautiful foliage on them, and they may be too much for your design. So you'll pick the largest, fullest rose, and that's going to be cut at half the height of the heaven line. And then every flower thereafter comes up right underneath. The head of that flower comes underneath the neck of the flower before it. So I want you to cut roses, always cut roses underwater, because they have a tendency to, if you've ever gotten a bouquet of roses, you'll see that sometimes you'll have the head just kind of go like this. It's because they have an air bubble in their neck. And if you place them, it's possible to salvage those roses if you put them in a bathtub or a large sink and weight them down, not to crush them, but to hold them under, submerge them, and have them at a slight angle. And you can watch the bubbles that come out of the top of the rose. And once all of the air bubbles have come out, then it will revive if you catch it in time. Okay? So that's one way to kind of salvage your roses if they happen to droop like that. Then do the same thing to the front, so that you're really creating a nice triangle right here with your 3 hot lady pink roses. The next item you're going to fill in with is your trachelium. And trachelium is a mossy kind of very soft, it almost feels like moss. It's just very soft. You'll have 2 stems of it, and they're very bushy and voluptuous. So you're welcome to take the pieces apart, and then from the pieces that you have left, simply floral tape in a group. Try to make it look like a little grouping of trachelium, and floral tape it, but leave the end open so that those end pieces will go into your Kenzon and hydrate water. So you don't want to cover that part with tape. You're only going to tape just a little tiny section. Now, you don't always, if you don't have any tape, don't worry. You can just simply rotate with your fingers and curl around all of those stems, and then carefully with thumb and forefinger just simply place it right into your Kenzon. You may not need to use any floral tape. Then the final thing we're going to place in are our monstera leaves. And the word, when you look at it, looks like the word monster. Well, they're big, large leaves, and they're really nice. These are actually the smaller of the monstera leaves. And you'll see that they're split leaf, many of them. Some of them have several slits, some of them have none. They're natural, that's the way they are. You want to use the biggest, tallest, strongest one up higher, and this one analyze the leaves to see which direction do they want to go. Don't try to argue or fight with your foliage. If it really has a bent to go one way, well then try to utilize it in that way in your design. And then put the smallest one maybe down in the front, to give you really kind of a triangle here of foliage. So I go from here to up here with a triangle, and then we have an opposing triangle here with the pink roses. So it just makes a very simple and elegant design with just a few materials. Now let me turn this sideways so that you can see that everything, just Ikebana is always viewed from the front and from the sides, but we don't ignore the back. We want to have depth and dimension that's appropriate scale for our container. So you can see that I have something in the back, and then this is my heaven line, my man line, and all the things that come forward. But I have them in a row in my Kenzon, and I have them radiating like this, like the rays of a sun, just coming, you know, all the way around, or like a fan, if you will. All right, so that is our design for this month for St. Patrick's Day.
So you have 3 placements of the Fernie stuff?
Yes.
2 in the back and 1 in the front?
Correct, but you may, with your container and your materials, you may have to put more in the front, and you may want to put your leaves all in the back. You can see on your drawing that I did for you that I gave you 2 designs with 2 Kenzon placements, and you can choose to put maybe the leaves in the back, both in the back, or you can choose to put one on the side and one in the front. You decide where they need to go, okay?